Hello, welcome to the Colourful vlog. Today it is an episode for the 12 cast ons again, and we are at cast on number 7 and 8 ish. Yeah, let's just dive into the cast ons. I have been working on the one in this project bag. It was cast on number 6. The Bee Street sweater by Catherine Folkerth. If you see me looking, I'm looking at my notes. So when I told you that I wasn't sure about the whole gauge thing and if I was gonna knit on or frog or do calculations or anything, I frogged, and this is where I'm at now. I just did the ribbing. I have done the setup round, which was a plain knit round and setup with the stitch markers, and that's it. That's all I did. But at least it was frogged and it is back on the needles again, ready for me to pick up and continue again and start all over with the whole lace chart. It was just a teeny tiny bit, and I was like, if I don't frog it now, I will invest even more in it. It will feel even worse. Let's just frog it now. Make it like as painless as possible. And I can see my battery is draining harder than I thought. So I will be right back. Yeah, I still have to get used to the camera and how quickly the battery will drain if it's not fully charged. Fully loaded. Sure. Hi Binks, you're distracting me. You little fluff. So yeah, the Bee Street is back on the needles, and after that I needed a little bit of a palette cleanser. So in this, yeah, what is it? Starry project bag, a boxy bag. I'm not sure where I got it. It was a self-striping indie dyer in the US. So, in here I have 2 squares for my blanket. Not 1, 2. I wanted to use the yarn that I am going to use for a different project. You will see it in a sec. It's project number 8. For my scrappy blanket first, because I didn't know how much yarn I would have left over and if it would be enough. I'm not even using 2 grams for these squares, so really tiny scraps are still enough. And first I did this one. These are all yarns I used in my Marled Mania cardigan by Stephen West Knits. Apparently my mind is making a jumble of things. I'm a bit tired, sorry about that. So yeah, here we have square number 1. The pattern I'm using is the Stitch in Time blanket, and it is by Kay Jones. And I adjusted it because those squares are a bit bigger. I think she cast on 45 stitches. I cast on 25 because I can, and because I want squares that are done in like 30 minutes tops. I just cannot knit 50 stitches squares in half an hour. I just can't get it. And then it takes me too long for 1 square, and then I have to add all the other 8 to make a full one, and I am somewhere halfway, and I put it aside because I do not like such a big long project. So that's why I have very tiny squares, and I really enjoy them. I have been knitting for 2 or 3 days, only squares. I got this one. Mostly this one, this one and this one are from the Marled Mania cardigan. These two were from Josh's advent calendar, which I also wanted to incorporate in my squares. This one was a pair of socks from Robert. It is self-striping yarn by Carolien and accidentally has yellow and green. And this is from my Alaska hat, which is Knit Picks Chroma. This one is the only one that's not a single, but I needed just one more square. So I took down all my scrap yarn, my leftovers, my mini skein, etc., everything, and I started sorting through them to figure out the best fit. So I came to this Knit Picks Chroma and this self-striping sock yarn that was exactly yellow and green at the start of the ball. So the teeny tiny ball that I had left over. There's also purples and such in there, but right where I needed it, it was yellow and green. So absolutely perfect. So this is my yellow square, and this is my, has a little bit of green or a greenish tint in it. Like this one, it looks very yellow, but it's more like a tiny hint of green in it. This one has green speckles. So yeah, my blanket squares have a theme, and I try to fit everything in there. So they are either the full color, so yellow, like this one. These are all basically shades of yellow, even though they are orangey yellow or super bright yellow or tiny bit of greenish yellow, like these. Totally fine. And then there is we have speckles. This one was already started. It was already 6 squares, but since I was at it and I was having all the scraps that I needed at hand, I thought, let's just finish this one as well. The theme here is green speckles, so all the yarn with green speckles is allowed to be in this square, and I think it worked out very nice. These are all my own hand dyed as well, and everything except this one is from the Colourful Creativity Advent Calendar 2020. This one is from an older Advent Calendar, probably 2016 or 2017. So yeah, so I have 2 new full squares and 1 finished whipped square, or at least finished. You can see all the yarn ends tangling, and this is what needs to go around it. So they all need their borders, but I'm already very happy that I actually managed to knit squares. I have 1 square finished from last year, so if I do 3 this year, I'm definitely doing better. I also have picked out yarn for, I think, 4 or 5 more squares, so we're going somewhere. So yeah, that is cast on number 7, and I was like in Angela's comments on her cast on vlogs that I was cheating by casting on these squares and seeing them as a project on their own. I'm not gonna count every square as a project of its own, but yeah. I watched yesterday's vlog from Angela. I think it's cast on number 11, and she explicitly said it's not cheating, it's a cast on its own. So counting this, and once those 3 are finished, so it's basically 2.5 finished things, I will call it a win. But because I have finished those squares, I could finally use the yarn, and the yarn I am now storing in this Star Wars Halloween bag by J.B. Rose Sews. There is the label. I'm not sure if they are still sewing. I hope so. They always made nice project bags. but they're in the UK, so I try not to look at stores in the UK too much at the moment with all the customs and extra added fees. So yeah, here I have a whole lot of yarn. All those yarns are, you know, almost all you can see were in those squares. I have a few more, but I know I have enough of them to make squares of later on. I've cast on a cowl. I have here the ribbing in this glorious color. I think it could be Guppy by Hedgehog Fibers, but I'm not sure. They are all singles yarns, so this is the leftover singles pile, and I am knitting a cowl, like I said, and the pattern, am I showing you the back or the front? Oh dear, I don't know. Both sides are actually very pretty. Might be that the back is prettier than the front. Let's see. I am doing a pattern that Josh sent me with my advent calendar I got so kindly for December. There was a letter, and in the letter was a written out pattern for a cowl. So cast on X stitches and then knit 5, purl 2, and since the X amount of stitches is 2 less than the repeat of the 7 stitches, you basically have a spiral of 2 purl stitches around. And I'm not sure if I am far enough along that you can really see it. Yeah, I think you might. There's the 2 purl stitches. I did a ribbing first because I didn't want it to be curling on me. But look what I mean, that you can see on the inside that it also looks really nice. So maybe I will turn it around and make it a reversible one. Interesting. I think this one is something I got that someone didn't like from a Countess Ablaze surprise package. The blind date ones. It is a beautiful shade of yellow that matched perfectly with my Mount Mania sweater or cardigan. And I really love that shade, so I was very happy. It was probably something I got from the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted. Hi Binks, you're back. So that's now, and basically I'm doing one wild one, one semi-solid one, and that alternating. And so far this actually feels okay knitted up, which is nice because I've had other experiences. I cast on a lot of stitches. I went with 208 because I have my 3-color cashmere cowl, which is a bit too tight. I think there was 160 stitches, and Josh wrote, for instance, 140 stitches, and I was like, yeah, if the other one is 160, 140 is not gonna do it. So I went with a ridiculous big amount, or at least it feels that way. But then I am sure it's a bit looser and maybe it will have a bit more drape because I went for a 3.5mm needle. So nice big needles, and I cheated. Remember I told you I was having issues with the needles and I would knit everything on a 3.5mm if I could, because that's apparently one of my favorite besides the 2.5mm for socks. Yeah, I have cheated. These are interchangeable needles. The cable is pink, which means they are from the mini needle set. So the sock needle set from Haya Haya, the interchangeable ones. And I have used the tip extenders that you can use to put your regular small size on the mini cable. And I had short 3.5mm interchangeable tips. And because of that little bit extra, they are just the same as long ones, because the short ones I just cannot knit with them. But this way I can definitely knit with them, and I absolutely love knitting with these. So yeah, I had a spare pair of 3.5mm needles. Anyway, I did have them. And I also got a 3.5mm back in my needle case because I ripped the Beast Street that was on 3.5 and is now on 3.25mm needles. So I do have to change that in my notes. So yeah, I have a bag full of yarn still. This one is finished, but is still in here. And this is going to be a nice big cowl, probably. I'm thinking of doing 10 to 12 rounds of every color. I have 18 colors, so it's gonna be a big one. And those are the things I cast on. And now I have to ponder what the last 4 cast-ons will be. How are you all doing? How many did you cast on? I mean, even if you only do 1 cast on because you're a monogamous knitter, you can join. Do check out Angela's vlogs for everything. I still have to look on Ravelry. For those who can't, this is totally off Ravelry as well. If you need that, you can just post on Instagram or email to Angela. But I noticed that I totally forgot to look on Ravelry where the group is, and they are already chatting about the cast-ons and doing cast-on photos for prizes and stuff. So it's very exciting. Not that I really need prizes and more yarn to be motivated. I mean, I have enough, but still. And you see me drinking from my Starbucks mug, and I really need to knit myself a mug cozy that doesn't flop down all the time. So I think that might be my next cast on, and I might actually be using handspun as well. Yeah, knitting with handspun. It's not the first time, but it is very rare that I do that. So the cats are getting annoying, so I guess it's time for me to stop recording. I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.